What's up guys, welcome to Monchkinz Gaming, where we take your gaming to the next level. This is Monchkinz logging in to bring you my Final Fantasy XIV Samurai Guide. Hello guys, I hope you guys are having a wonderful week so far. Basically, I'm here to show you guys my Samurai Guide, and I'm not saying this is gonna be the end-all be-all guide, and this are probably some of the initial stuff that that I've noticed as playing Samurai from basically day one. So I do hope that I can help you guys in terms of better understanding what the samurai job is. In this guide, I'll be covering, of course, pretty much all the important skills of the samurai, and of course later on we'll be talking about my chosen opener. And just a disclaimer, my opener is something that I've made up myself without actually looking into other people's openers. So if you guys have any suggestions of openers, please leave a comment below, and I will gladly try that out. And in my next video, basically I'll give you props if it actually is a very good opener, and if I find it much better than mine. I'm not saying this, like I said, this guide is not gonna be the end all be all. I will keep updating my samurai guide as well, because it is the job that I've chosen. And I'm still going to do monk. I'm still in the middle of leveling one up to 70 and try it out at the end game. But I feel like the samurai job is the job for me for this patch at least. So like I said, this will be a ongoing thing, so if I make any mistakes, just let me know guys, and I will update in the next videos, of course. So without further ado, let's start off with, I guess, the important thing to note in this patch is the job gauge. So Samurai actually has two job gauge which you need to concern yourself about. The first one is these 3 tokens, which is called the Sen gauge. Now the Sen gauge displays like 3 Sen effects, which is Setsu, which is the top one, Getsu, the left one, and Ka, the right one. So these are accumulated by doing certain combos, and if you do get the token, your Iai Jutsu, and I hope I pronounced that right, changes from 1 Sen into Higambana, 2 Sen to Tenka Goken, 3 Sen to Midare Setsugeka. So basically, it doesn't matter the rotation or the way you get the tokens, because the tokens are considered as 1, 2, and 3. So even if you get, like, let's say the top one first, it will always be Higanbana. Even if you get the left one first, it'll always be Higanbana. And if you get 2, it'll always be Tenka Goken, and of course 3 will be Midare Setsugeka. So the rotation for the top one is basically Hakaze, which is your very first ability, and you transition to Yukikaze. So once you do that, basically, we'll go behind, you will receive your first Sen token. And of course the right one, which I usually go to, is Hakaze, Shifu, and then Kasha. And finally, the last one is Hakaze, Jinpu, and then Gecko. Notice how your EI Jutsu basically changes their icons depending on how many Sen points you get. At this point, I think I'll just say tokens because they're just that much easier to much easier for me, I guess, to just say tokens because they are basically just tokens, 1, 2, and 3. And of course, you can unleash it anytime you want, depending on what sort of EI Jutsu you get. So let's just close that. And let's just run away for a minute here. Don't like having battle music all the time. There we go. So those are your 3 basic rotations. From Hakaze to Yukikaze, from Hakaze to Shippu to Kasha, and Hakaze to Jinpu and to Gecko. So those are basically the rotations that you're going to do. Now the manner of the rotation that you're going to do will depend on what kind of player you are. And at the moment, like I said, numbers, basically there's not enough numbers to prove stuff at the moment, and depends on stat weights as well. So I'm not, in this particular video, I'm not gonna be going over all these numbers, and I think you just go with your preferred rotation. It really doesn't matter because you're gonna be rotating on all 3 of those rotations. I prefer the Shippu to Kasha rotation basically to come second. So my first one is basically Hakaze and then Yukikaze, because Yukikaze gives the slashing reduced target slashing resistance by 10%, which will help you and also help your teams who have slashing attacks. Basically all your tanks have slashing attacks, your ninja has slashing attacks, other samurai has slashing attacks, and I think that's pretty much it. But it does help a lot of your group, and that's why I prefer it first. The second rotation I usually do is Shifu, because it reduces the weapon skill cast time and recast time, spell cast time and recast time, and auto attack delay by 10%, which you're probably gonna say it's just 10%, but let's have a look. My recast time at the moment is 2.41 seconds, and if we go attack, now we get the Shifu, and now it's down to 2.17 seconds. So it's nearly about 0.3, nearly. So I just have to say I find the Shippu one much better because the auto attack increases as well, which means increases in your DPS. Now the last one is the Hakaze and the Jinpu combination, which I usually do last. Is this increases your damage dealt by 10%. Now a lot of samurais have been debating which one to go with first, and this is probably one of those things that you get more damage for this, but you get more recast timer and auto attacks with this. My position in this is, when I do Shifu, that means if I'm just doing the normal rotation, like without any openers and stuff, like fighting monsters or whatnot, my opinion in this is basically once I get Shifu, I'm about, like I said, roughly 0.3 of a second quicker to cast Kasha, Hakaze, and then Jinpu when I get it. So basically 1, 2, then 3. So that's about I would just say 0.8 of a second. Whilst, you know, if I go with the Jinpu rotation, those that you pretty much lose that 0.8. So that is one of the things that in my opinion, it's up to you what kind of player you are. Like I said, this guide is not gonna be talking about numbers, but it's what you feel is best. But once the numbers are in, and you know, people have crunched down the numbers, typing down, yeah, this is the stat weights, this is much better, your skill speed needs to be this, then we'll talk again. But at this point in time, if you guys are really into it, you can get, I don't want to say it, but you know, you can get some sort of program to check your DPS, but I'm sure it'll be quite minuscule. But if I'm wrong, just leave a comment below. So that is the main rotation with the samurai, and I hope I explained the 3 combos that you need to get yourself familiar with. Now, we haven't talked about the sword and this points. It's called the Kenki gauge, and the Kenki gauge displays the current amount of your Kenki as a samurai, and this basically slowly builds up as you use your combos. So any successful weapon skills, basically you get 5. And now, quick point, I did not know this until I was at Endgame Samurai, and for those who are new, who are just playing Samurai, it doesn't really tell you that you have actual positionals. I didn't realize until the end. But when you do get your Kenki gauge, because basically you unlock this at level 52, I think, it doesn't actually tell you that Kasha and Gekko, actually gains an extra bonus if you do their positionals. So Kasha is a flank, which is a side combo, and then Gekko is actually a rear combo. So you do get an extra 5 Kenki gauge for you do get 5 extra Kenki gauge for doing those positionals. So I just want to put it out there because it didn't actually tell you that, oh hey, we're giving you a bonus if you're doing a positional, because your entire time from level 50 to 52, it doesn't tell you that you have positional. So I had this mentality where Samurai doesn't have any positionals because the combo potency doesn't actually drop. You don't get any potency drops when you are out of position. You just lose 5 Kenki gauge, which probably to the hardcore players will be a lot, but for the casual ones, losing 5 Kenki gauge probably isn't that much. But yeah, if you really want, obviously, if you really want to be you know, perfect, then you will hit those positionals. Okay, so basically I've talked about our job gauge being the Sen gauge and the Kenki gauge, and hopefully you have more understanding with that. And now with the Kenki gauge, you do get abilities for that. The first one that you get is Hisatsu Shiten, which is a 300 potency, which uses 25 Kenki gauge. It's a single attack. And then later on, you'll unlock Hisatsu Gyoten and Hisatsu Yaten. Gyoten is basically your shoulder tackle, and it uses 10 Kenki gauge. And then you got your Yaten, which is basically just like Dragoon's Dragon Flip. And then you move back. This actually has an additional effect. It enhances your NP, which is your range attack. So this delivers a range attack with a potency of 100, and the enhanced potency is 300. So it does give you an extra incentive to use Hisatsu Yaten and then go for the NP. But just a quick reminder, if you are in the middle of your rotation, let's just say you're in Jinpu and then you're about to use Gecko, but because of mechanics you use Hisatsu Yaten, and then if you do use your NP, you will lose that combo. So you'll have to start again from Hakaze, Jinpu, and then Gecko. So I would just say if you did Hakaze and then you went Yaten, Hisatsu Yaten, because of mechanics, if you shoot up your NP, that is actually a higher DPS than your Jinpu. Now your timer for your Jinpu, most likely you will still have time because all of the samurai buffs last for 30 seconds. So even if you missed out on using that Jinpu and use your NP, you'll probably still have about 10 to maybe 14 seconds left before you actually lose that buff. So you can basically use Hakaze, Jinpu again, and then go for your Gecko. So just putting it out there. The next one is Hisatsu Kyuten, which is basically an AoE attack. It uses 25 Genki gauge as well, and it does 150 potency to all nearby enemies, which is basically the range for something like Mangetsu and Oka, which is your AoE. And then finally, your level 70 job quest, you will unlock Hisatsu Guren, which is basically the strongest AoE you have. It has a about 2-minute recast timer. It deals 800 potency for the first enemy, and it's 25% less on the second one, so 600, and then 50% then to the rest, which is 400 potency to the rest of the enemy. So it is quite a strong AoE, but it does cost 50 Genki gauge, so not very cost efficient, I would say. And I mean, you can only use it for every 2 minutes, so I would say use this in like burst phases and, you know, DPS checks. Those ones are probably the best time to use this, because even though Shiten is very quick to use because you only need 25 Genki, it only does 300 potency. So two Shitens is 50 Genki gauge, which is equivalent to 600 potency. So your Hisatsu Guren is definitely a stronger skill to use. Now, I think that's pretty much covered the Genki gauge abilities and the rotations. And now we'll be going through the rest of the abilities so you guys can understand it better. The first one that I want to mention is Meikyo Shisui, because this allows you to execute 3 weapon skill combos without meeting the combo prerequisites. So unfortunately this does not affect Iai Jutsu. Basically this is your perfect balance in a way. So you do have 3 weapon skills that you can use, and you know, basically if you want all 3 of this, basically all you have to use is the Meikyo Shisui, and you have to use Yukikaze, which gives you the top, Kasha, which gives you the right one, and then Gecko, which gives you the left one, and then you can use your Midare. So, you know, that's basically what it's trying to achieve, but you know, it depends on your situation. It only has 80 seconds recast timer, so it's definitely something you can keep using in order for you to get into your groove. And what else? So AoE wise, you start with Fuga. You always start with Fuga, and then you get your Mangetsu, which grants you your Getsu, which is your left one, and then you go Fuga, and then you go Oka, which gives you your Fuga. Sorry, your Ka, sorry. This is very confusing. So it gives you your Ka, and then it gives you basically 2 tokens. Though that is your pretty much your AoE rotation. That right there. It's Fuga, Mangetsu, Fuga, Oka. You get 2, and then you use Tenka Goken, which is your AoE attack. Which this is probably the best time to talk about it. Your EI Jutsu, your 3 EI Jutsu, which is the first one is Higambana, which delivers an attack potency of 240. Now that seems to be low, but it does have a damage over time effect, and that potency is 35, and this lasts for a whole minute. So basically, if you calculate that, each dot usually does the damage in the 3-second mark. But I don't know if your skill speed affects this, because before in the old patch, I know spell speed sort of worked on the dots for Summoner. But if it's still every 3 seconds, it's basically 35 times 30, which I can actually get a calculator here. Let's go ahead and do that. So we have 35 potency, and the reason why I'm doing 30 is basically 60 divided by 30 is 60 divided by 3, which is the potency, is basically 30 seconds. So it gives you a total dot damage of 1050 potency, plus the 240 is to 1290. Now this basically tells us that Higanbana is our strongest DPS as long as you let that timer run. Basically, even if you don't let it run all the way through, you're still gonna be a lot higher in DPS wise with the dots than your Midare Setsugeka. Now a lot of people actually forget to put Higanbana, myself included, because of the minute timer. Sometimes it doesn't fall into my rotation and I have to wait, because for some reason I'll get my second token, and that means I cannot use Higanbana. And Tenka Goken is basically your AoE skill, which deals like 360 potency damage to the first enemy, 10% less, then 20% less to the third one, and 30% less to the fourth one, and 40% less to the fifth one, and 50% less for the rest of the remaining enemies. Now while in AoE this is probably not too bad, and with all the reducing damage, it is a free skill basically, because you get those tokens and you get Genki Gauge as well, and it lets you regain your TP because it is a recast time of 2.5 nearly seconds. So it's a free skill, but like I said, Higanbana is your best DPS, and Midare is basically your second best at this point. Not saying, well, it is sort of your second best, because one thing that I didn't mention during the Genki Gauge was Hisatsu Kaiten, which increases your next potency, for your next weapon skill potency by 50%. I didn't mention it in the last, I didn't mention it during the Genki Gauge, because this is basically what you use Hisatsu Kaiten for all your EI Jutsu. You don't use your Kaiten on anything else apart from Higanbana and Midare Setsugeka. Well, and you can use it on Tenka Goken if you are actually AoEing with a lot of mobs. you cannot use Kaiten on Guren because Hisatsu Guren is a ability, not a weapon skill. So you can only use this on your weapon skill, all your global cooldowns, and your Iai Jutsu, because the Iai Jutsu is considered as a weapon skill. So I would just keep using all your Hisatsu Kaiten on your Iai Jutsu, which maximizes their DPS. So for example, for Higanbana, if we want to basically achieve 50% more, is we can go 1 times 0.15, and that is the total DPS number or potency number of your Higanbana with all the dots. 1935, which is humongous. Now for your Midare, which is deals 720, we just multiply it by 1.5 and you get a total total amount of 1080. So there you go. It shows that Higanbana really is your strongest DPS, and I'm pretty sure that Kaiten will affect your dot potency as well, because it is applied thereafter. But you know, if I'm wrong in that, if the numbers later on say no, which I don't believe it will, you need to always have Higanbana on. And let's finish off the rest of these skills, which is Ageha. Now Ageha is basically like your assassinate from your ninja or your mercy something, I think from Bard. I can't remember at this point in time what it was called. And we do get Third Eye, which has a second mechanic to it. Now Third Eye reduces the amount of damage taken by the next attack by 5%. It only lasts for 3 seconds for some reason, and the duration does last for, so it has an additional effect which is called Open Eyes, which lasts for 15 seconds. So Open Eyes actually happens when you get hit when you have Third Eye on. So in that 3-second opening, you have to get hit. So usually the best place to use these is in AoE wide I guess during the primals, you know, there's AoE wide damage, so you can definitely use this to your advantage. Now Open Eyes grants you 2 different skills. The first one is the Merciful Eyes, which basically is a heal. So it's a 200 potency, cure potency, and it doesn't cost anything. As long as you have Open Eyes on, you can use it. So you can keep using Third Eye every 15 seconds. So 15 seconds is very short. You can keep using it, or if you're anticipating a damage incoming, you know, just like with Susanoo's, I forgot his skill, but he does that AoE damage to everyone. You can get Merciful Eyes to help the healers a little bit, or you get Hisatsu Seigan. So Hisatsu Seigan is also only available during Open Eyes. So like I said, you have to have Third Eye on and get hit in that 3-second window, and then you can use Hisatsu Seigan. So Hisatsu Seigan is not a free skill like Merciful Eyes. It does cost 15 gauge, Kenki gauge, sorry. So, and it delivers a potency of 200. Now, some of you will probably think, well, it does, you know, it's very unlikely that I'll be using Hisatsu Seigan because I keep forgetting Third Eye, which, by the way, I understand because I do it also. I keep freaking forgetting about that. So, but cost efficient wise, Seigan is probably better than Shiten. Shinten, it costs 25, deals 300, while Seigan is only 15 Kenki gauge and deals 200 potency. So basically it's a trade-off. The 10 Kenki gauge is equivalent to like 100 potency damage. But like I said, it cost efficient wise, Hitsatsu Seigan is probably a little bit better than the Shiten. If you're pretty low on Kenki gauge, you're expecting to use your Kaiten, you're always going to be expecting to use your Kaiten every end of your rotation, of your 3 rotation combos. And of course, sometimes you have to have at least 40 so you can use both Midare Setsugeka and to refresh your Higambana. And I guess the last skill that I want to talk about is Meditate. Now, Meditate gives you 10 Kenki gauge basically for I think every 3 or 4 seconds or something like that. But I know the maximum amount that you can get is I think somewhere around 50, which we can trial out now. So we just refresh, make sure our thing is 0, and then we attack this, and then we use Meditate. So the duration is 15 seconds, and if, like I said, every 3 seconds is basically where you get the Kenki gauge. So the total amount is 50. There you go. There still was like 1 second left there, but this doesn't let you attack. It just lets you stand there, take damage if you need to, but do not move. Do not move, because well, unless there's an AoE marker there, of course. But if you're not if you're only expecting AoE wide damage, just stand there and take the damage. Don't worry if you take a damage, because Meditate actually keeps on going up until you move. So even if you get damage, you're still going to be in Meditate mode unless they knock you back. I haven't seen that happen yet to me, that while I was meditating that they knock me back and it cancels Meditate, but I'm guessing it will. But yeah, this is a good one on primal transition, phase transitions, those big ones, because you're still technically in battle. Now, Meditate doesn't work if you're outside battle. So for example, like right now, and I use it, you're not gonna get anything out of Meditate, which is kind of weird in a way. I mean, if you're meditating outside the battle, you should be still getting Kenki gauge, even though it's less. I mean, you should be more focused when you're outside battle, but whatever, Square Enix. It is a good one to use during those phase transitions, and if there's fights where you just have to stand, it's basically your chakra charging time, but this time you're charging your Kenki gauge. So for the next, when the boss comes around, you have 50 at least, well, at least 10, depending on how long you can meditate. And the good thing about this is the recast timer is only 1 minute. It's very quick, and you will usually have it up already after. Let's say for Susano, you can, when he disappears for the first time and you use Meditate, and then he uses those 2 swords, I'm talking about the EX fight, by the time those 2 swords are dead and you move to the side, you can use Meditate again, and you can get at least 30 or 40 Kenki gauge before he pops up, and you can start doing your rotations again. So that's it. That's all my explanation and where and when to use that. The last thing I guess I'm gonna talk about is the roll skills, which of course you gotta have Invigorate. Second Wind, I like having Second Wind for that extra heal. We do have Merciful Eyes, but it does require it to be an open eyes, which is kind of stupid in a way. So having Second Wind actually really helps. True North I put here. You don't really have to put true north, because if you are very good with your positionals, which usually I am as well, but basically my third spot has been changing between true north and diversion, which is reducing the enmity generation. I also thought about putting feint in, which lowers the target's strength and dexterity, just like the virus, but this time it's strength and dexterity. So I don't know how useful this will be but it does have 2-minute recast timer. And then true north, yeah, I said that. So not sure which one to get at this point. I was using leg sweep before, but I realized that it doesn't actually have any damage. It's just a 3-second stun, so I took that out. The other one is arm's length, which is creates a barrier, nullifying knockback, and draws in effects. I don't know what to say about that. I guess it's good if you even know you're gonna get knocked back. Bloodbath is always nice, and of course goad is always nice. So they might basically, I guess you can say, my fifth skill is kind of changing depending on what I want. But that's it for all the explanations, and now we'll go through my opener for Samurai, which I actually pre-recorded. So what I'll do is I'll have to go to my program and get my voice over ready. And this is my opener video, but I didn't realize I am nearly 40 minutes into talking about the Samurai job. So what I'll do is I will be posting and explaining this opener that I've got. I do have two which just have a little bit of variance in them, so I'll be explaining that in another video. So guys, you know, I think that's it for this video. Remember to click like, subscribe, and share this video if you find it helpful at all. As always, I would like to hear from you guys what you think of the Samurai job, and of course, if I do have made any mistakes, please leave a comment below so people can have a look that yeah, I'm only human. And also follow me on Twitter at Monchkinz Gaming. Follow me on Facebook at Monchkinz Gaming. This is Monchkinz running off, and I'll see you guys in the next level.